Hey guys, today we got finger picking extraordinaire Colin Hill.
What's happening?
Welcome aboard.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me.
How's it going, buddy? I heard you
It's
just
going
got
good.
back from China.
I did. I just got back from a trip in China, and it was a little tour, as well as attending the Music China conference, which is, if you're familiar, it's very similar to the NAMM show, but it's their version of the NAMM show out there, and it was big, incredibly big, and the tour after it was awesome. We got to travel through different cities, kind of in the middle of China, and it was great. Experience the culture and the people, and just it was really cool, really
Yeah,
cool.
big culture shock, I'm sure. Did
It was a
they
big culture shock.
The
did
authentic
they
church.
cater to you pretty good, like being
They did,
American?
yeah. I mean, the culture shock, the culture gap is pretty big in the sense that they don't speak English, and
Right.
even people in Shanghai, which is a pretty international city,
Hmm.
most of them didn't speak English either. And some people could understand it a little bit, so it was difficult. Of course, I was on Duolingo before this, trying to learn enough Chinese to get by, but still, that just made it really difficult. So yeah, as they were very accommodating though, and very helpful, and like of course, like the company I went with the Ketma Guitar Company, which makes that brand of guitar right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And they set everything up, booked the tour and all that sort of stuff. It was great. They definitely took good care of us, so that was
Well,
good.
that's good. What about the food? Lots of new stuff, different things.
The food was
Uh,
crazy. I would
Food that
say that there
moved.
was only like two dishes that were similar to what we have out here in our Chinese restaurants. And I
gotcha.
caught myself, it's so funny, I caught myself saying, oh man, there's a Chinese restaurant there or whatever. And I just needed to wait. I was like, wait a second. No, that's just a restaurant
Right, that's
because
just a
every
restaurant. Yeah.
yeah, every restaurant here is a Chinese restaurant, unless it's something else like Japanese or Western food. Like
Right.
we went to one Western place. It was a European kind of styled place, and
Hmm.
you could go in there as like kind of a pub style and get your burger and fries and stuff like that. And it didn't taste quite the same, to be honest.
Really, it
And
didn't.
no, it was different. It was different. We had some spaghetti as well, like spaghetti bolognese, and it was good, but still slightly different. And but no, I was gonna say there's about like two dishes that matched up with back home. One of them was kind of a lemon chicken that was similar to orange chicken,
Right.
fried. But then, you got everything else like goose intestines that I ate, and
Oh,
then
wow.
That sounds
like
yummy.
it was wild. I didn't really, I mean, to be honest, a lot of these meals you can't really tell what you're eating until they
Yeah.
tell you what it
Maybe it's a
is,
good
you
thing,
know?
right?
Yeah, maybe it's a good
Yeah, maybe
thing.
it's a
Yeah.
good thing. Well, there was one guy that talked my buddy talked me into eating this dish that was on the table. It's a round table. Everything's a round table dinner out there, it seems, like
Oh,
it's a round
wow.
table, it's like rotating and you get to just pick things off with your chopsticks, and everybody shares from the plates.
Wow.
And anyway, my buddy was trying to talk me into this dish. He said it was so good. He said it's so good. And I'm like, I know you're lying to me, but I don't know. I didn't know how bad he was lying. And
Oh
I
wow.
picked it up, and it was kind of like, it looked like a dumpling because it was wrapped in a rice
Yeah.
paper flour, whatever that is. Um so I didn't get to see what it was.
Weird.
And I think the guy, one of the Chinese guys that was there said, he tried to translate. He said fish egg, and I'm
Okay.
like, okay, well, I've had that on sushi.
You can
That's
do
not a
that.
problem. Like, let me just try this or whatever. Boom, I ate into it. It just exploded in my mouth, and
Ooh.
I'm like, and it was like a nickel, the
Yeah.
size of a nickel or something. It was disgusting, and I
I
tried to
bet.
hold it together. I did hold it together,
Yeah,
actually.
well,
I was proud of myself.
way to
I
go.
held it. It didn't come back out. Nothing like that. But I definitely didn't chew it as much as I should have. It just
Right.
went down pretty fast.
Right.
And he was having a hard time
Well,
not
way to
laughing.
be
My
a
other buddy
trooper, man.
wouldn't eat it. Well, it turns out by the end of the trip, we found out it was a fish eyeball. It was not a fish
Oh,
egg.
wow. Ugh.
And I'm like, yep, that
No,
makes sense.
I like
It had
sushi
that
and
little
stuff, but
layer on the
no.
outside, and it bursted into my mouth, and I'm
Yeah,
like, yep, that
no.
makes way more sense.
Yeah, no.
I can do fish eggs, like the
Yeah,
little fish eggs on sushi is
I've
great. I
I
never
could
can do
do
I've
that.
wood
never
too.
had that either. I've never
Caviar.
had.
I mean, come on.
I've
Caviar, yeah.
never.
I had little baby like octopuses or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were octopuses,
Yeah,
not squids. And they were like, this
we
big,
did.
like they're
Yeah.
big, but they were bite sized, but they
Yeah.
had the body and
Yeah.
everything,
I
and
enjoy
they were
those.
Yeah.
served cold
Yeah.
and like slimy. Man, I was not a fan of that.
Yeah. Of course, the ones we have like at the Chinese restaurants around here, which they've stopped serving it, but that's what I would get. It'd be
Hmm.
cold and it'd have like
Yeah.
spices and pepper and stuff in it,
And, I'm a
and I
fan of
loved them.
like
They were
squid
good.
legs and stuff like that, or like calamari. Oh, I'll eat that all day. But this was just cold,
We-
served with the body. I don't,
Yeah.
man, it was rough. Just looking at them was rough.
Lord, you
Right.
might
But
have you might
you
have
know,
tried cat and dog and
I
everything
don't know.
else.
It's possible. There were
Hey, as
things that
long
I
as it's
ate that I
good, it
didn't
don't
know what
matter.
I ate. Yeah, and there was like they served cartilage quite a bit. Like a lot
Oh
of the
wow.
skewers that you'll
Wow.
see, there's cartilage.
Oh
And
wow.
it kind of tasted like, the meat or the beef or whatever, but it was
Yeah.
just not, the texture was just crunchy, kind of.
Yeah.
Think
So
I
and
hear
fatty.
this in
Kind of gristly or something like
Yeah.
that, you know?
Yeah.
the next Colin Hill album, 100% raw.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I ate some stuff. I mean, that's a short list for sure. But
Nah.
you know what though? It was good food, and they had really good dishes as well. Like they had something called, I think, Beijing duck is what they call it. Maybe.
Sounds
But it
good.
was like there was like, this cooked duck,
Right.
and the skin was like fried, and
Hmm.
they had these little like rice looking. They looked like tortillas basically. And then this sauce that you dip in, and cucumbers and sugar, and you
Oh
kind of
wow.
put together, you assembled your own thing as it's floating by. You had to do it pretty quickly,
Ah,
and eat it like a little wrap. That was amazing, amazing. So
Oh
they had some
wow.
good, really good stuff as well. Yeah.
well, how did they? You said you got to play for them. How the culture and everything? What was your big outcry with the people? I mean, did they really love the music you were doing?
Yeah, yeah, they really did, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. I mean, not surprised in the sense of I have friends
Right.
that have played there before, fingerstyle guitar and
Hmm.
things like that, and they do love that music, and I'm thankful for that. But so it gave me some confidence going in. But I asked every night. I made a point of asking how many guitarists were in the audience,
Hmm.
and it was oftentimes like it was like one or two. And I'm
Really?
like, whoa. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm looking at like 80 or 100 people right here, and there's like one or two guitarists. I'm like, that's kind of cool in the sense that normal people, musicians or non-musicians, are enjoying the instrumental music. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty fascinating. And because that's not usually the way it is in the States when you're playing like a fingerstyle concert. It's usually other guitar players or
Right.
musicians that appreciate it because
Well,
it's not.
culturally,
Well,
we play more
and
guitar.
music being the
Yeah.
universal language,
It is.
you know.
Exactly, exactly. So you don't always need the lyrics, especially when you go overseas like that. So I,
Hmm.
I do think fingerstyle guitar is actually popular overseas, just in Asia in general as well.
Now, did Casper go with you? Casper
Yes,
Essman?
Casper was playing, so we did like a like duo concerts, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
we just traded off whoever started the night, you know what I mean? And then we'd play, somebody would play 5 songs, and then the other guy would play 5 songs, then we'd play five together, like
Together.
as a
Yeah.
duet,
Okay.
that kind of thing at the end.
Yeah.
Co-headlining, in other words.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really cool. It was actually really cool. It was a good vibe, and it took a little bit of pressure off as far as being, having to play for an hour and a
Yeah.
half kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. When you're playing a solo fingerstyle concert to play for that long, you have
Oh,
to have a lot of
absolutely. Yeah.
material practiced up really well, and it's a good time as well. But this was nice. This was nice.
Well, that's good. What about I lost my train of thought, but
It happens
it
quite a bit.
happens. It
No, you're
happens.
good.
Um, what about, are you looking to go back in the future? How was the 3 week stay? I mean, did you get
Yeah.
homesick or
I would love to go back in the future. That's definitely in the plan.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to happen. Also, maybe Japan as well.
Would
3 weeks
Japan
was
be
a
neat?
lot. Yeah, Japan would be awesome. Three
Oh
weeks
yeah.
is a lot. It just because I think 3 weeks anywhere for me is a lot.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
in
Well,
the States
yeah.
it's a lot. It's different. Three it's fine. But like
yeah.
when you're overseas like that, culture shock that big,
Oh, it
away
is.
from familiarity and you know what I
Yeah.
mean, and family and friends. It does start to wear on anybody, I
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
stay
Um,
jet lagged half the time because of the flights, everything else. I'm sure.
Absolutely. The jet lag was a little bit gnarly. I mean, I was traveling from the point I left my house to the point I got to the hotel in Shanghai is 27 hours.
Mhm.
So it was a
Golly.
lot of
Well,
travel.
the
And
elevation changes, stuff like that, the weather,
yeah,
do stuff
yeah,
to your
Well,
hearing, your
how was the
ears.
plane ride? I
mess
mean,
with you.
how did you do on the plane ride? Was it,
Man, it was okay. It's really nice to have a bed in between.
Mm.
Like you don't really want to be without a bed for 27 hours. That was, I
Yeah.
think, what happened. On the way back, I stopped in London for like an overnight and saw a friend.
Okay.
And that was nice. I mean, yes, it made the trip longer, but I had a bed, and that's a
Yeah, I had a
big
bed. Yeah.
difference
Right.
mentally. Yeah, yeah, because it's like, and also too, you're eating the plain food, and it's actually pretty good. Honestly, like those little like trays that they bring, I feel like are
Right.
pretty tasty. But eventually, it starts to feel like rations.
Wait,
Uh,
right.
You
Was
know.
the plane, was it pretty full? Was it cram packed where you didn't have
It
much
was
room?
every single time I had somebody left and right. So,
Oh wow. So
or
you
I was
was
I was on an aisle, but
okay,
left
yeah.
and beyond the
Yeah,
aisle.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
all right.
I don't know how I could do that. No, not much leg room and things
Mm-mm.
like that.
It was, you know what, it's kind of like pulling off a band-aid. It's like just get through this 27 hours and
Yeah.
you'll be okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Colin, okay, what started this adventure for you? Like,
hmm
okay, with the day you decided, hey, I'm willing to travel around the world with my finger picking style. I'm willing to put it on YouTube, whatever. What
hmm
started all
Yeah. Well, as far as like just music in general, my mom taught me violin growing up, so that's where
that?
my
Mm-hmm.
music started. And I had that in my hand as long as I can remember, and that was really good. It's a good foundation for like ear training, ear development, and things like that. I could
Yeah.
hear pitch and things like that. And she taught me by ear. It was with the Suzuki method mostly. So
Hmm.
that's where that started. But eventually, I picked up the guitar, and I ran across some different guitar players like Jack Pearson. He was a blues guitar player,
Mm-hmm.
played with the Allman Brothers from 95 to 97. Is a great player. Most people don't know who he is. Um, and then eventually, so I was playing like an electric guitar, like a Squire Strat for the most part,
Uh-huh.
and just learning that stuff. And then I saw a video of Jack playing with Tommy Emmanuel. And Tommy is a great fingerstyle guitar player, great acoustic guitar
Mm-hmm.
player from Australia. And he's so inspiring, and I wanted to do what he did, like I heard it and I was like, man, I want to learn that. And it just took me, a long time, but years of
Right.
just picking through YouTube videos and learning his songs note
Right.
for
Mm-hmm.
note and just grinding that out. And eventually that became, enough. There was enough material that I had learned, and vocabulary, I guess musical
Hmm.
vocabulary in that
Mm-hmm.
genre, that I started writing my own music and things like that.
Yeah.
But I want to say, I picked up guitar at like, seriously speaking, at like 16, age
Mm-hmm.
16.
Right.
And then I think kind of started really getting into Tommy at the end of that year, and
Mm-hmm.
and just went full bore into it. So, but yeah, that's kind of where that started. I think Tommy is the inspiration, and he's, truth be told, the inspiration for a lot of fingerstyle guitar players for
Right.
sure.
So you took
Yeah.
that inspiration and like everything from the finger picking style. It's got you developed your own. You're always going to have a little piece of Tommy, I guess. There,
Sure thing.
like any
Yeah.
musician, they start playing their tunes, and then out of
Mm.
that inspires your own. You know, so, I
It's
mean,
so true. Yeah,
fantastic.
you pick up all the influences from, I mean, even a little bit of Jack Pearson comes out, I hope,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, yeah,
because it's
yeah.
like
It's
you
like
learn all of the people's, honestly, I think what's happening in a practical sense is you're taking the things you like most from each player,
yes.
Right. And then
and
making it
then
your own.
it'll come out in your own way.
Yeah.
If you have, Andy McKee or Michael Hedges and Tommy Emmanuel and Chet Atkins, and then you take the things you like
Mm-hmm.
most. Okay, that song from Chet, this lick from Tommy, this technique from Michael Hedges, and then you've in essence just learned everything you like most, which makes sense. And then
Right.
that's why it
Mm-hmm.
becomes your own, because it was what you
Right. Well,
gravitated towards.
in 30 years from now, somebody's going to pick it up and have their Colin Hill style and
Right.
make it their
Yeah.
own. You know?
And that's
Right.
cool. I mean, yeah. Everybody's picking up inspiration from each other, and I love that. Yeah.
Would it be fair to assume some of your music? It to me, it spells jazz and lounge.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some tracks, and the thing about fingerstyle guitar is you can play so many different
Right.
genres within it. And so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and some of my tracks I've definitely drawn more inspiration from the jazz side of things.
Yeah.
And you could even say people like Joe Pass and guys like
Mm-hmm.
that play fingerstyle to some extent if they're
Yeah.
playing like chord melody arrangements.
Right.
Martin Taylor's a good example of that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's totally that side of fingerstyle, and that
Mm-hmm.
has come into my playing. A great guitarist by the name of Emil Ehrenbro from Sweden. He's been
Mm-hmm.
a big inspiration to me as well with his
Yeah.
jazz
European
playing.
sounding.
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, so it is kind of all over the place. I've released, songs in that vein, but also just like normal fingerstyle songs that sound more like Tommy, and all those sorts of things.
Right.
But you can play country fingerstyle too,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Western
bluegrass
style,
and
yeah.
Western style. Jerry Reed has a lot of fingerstyle out there,
Right.
and some of his stuff is jazzy. Some of his stuff is very Ray Charles inspired.
Right.
Some of his stuff is
You
just him because he's wild.
you
He's
might even
crazy.
Have
take
you?
some Joe Satriani
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah,
stuff like the even a little Eddie Van Halen,
Right. Have
100%. I
you
mean, Tommy
have you ever
learned those
gotten
guitar
to
licks as well.
have you ever gotten to play with somebody you looked up to? Have you gotten to play with them in person or anything?
Yeah, so I've played with Tommy, not on stage, but behind stage. So that's been a pleasure. That was awesome. I've played with Jack Pearson before a few times in some jam settings, which was awesome as well. Just some of my personal heroes, if that makes sense.
Right.
Maybe not names that a lot of people would know, but definitely in the fingerstyle world, it's been a pleasure.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, Tommy's definitely a legend in his own right, I guess. But
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to eventually get Casper on here. I've listened to some of his stuff. His
Yeah,
stuff's
he's
real
great.
good too. And
Yeah.
have you ever thought about like taking what you do and maybe creating your own band and your own maybe genre of music? Have you ever thought about doing that or?
I definitely, I mean, I've played with bands and I still play with bands and things like that from time to time. And I played at church all growing up and things like
Mhm.
that. So I've got an entire like electric guitar rig and things like that, which I really enjoy. And I'm familiar with playing to click tracks and all sorts of stuff. But as far as like fingerstyle goes, I think the one of the best qualities about it is that you can play an entire arrangement or an entire song just by yourself with a guitar into a microphone and things like that.
Right.
But I also do love duets, like the stuff that I do with Casper, and we'll write songs together. Even if it's
Right.
remote, like I'll send him my part, and then he'll put something on top of it, send it back, or we'll hash things out that way. So I love the collaborative process
Oh,
behind that.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about the violin? I mean, do
Yeah.
you get on stage and play that or are you just strictly like finger picking?
I haven't played violin on stage in a long time, but I do use it for recording, and I'll lay down like string arrangements and
Yeah.
things like that behind songs, and use it for production purposes for the most part.
That's
And I
cool.
can usually create a nice like string arrangement, orchestral kind of sounding thing, depending on the track,
Mhm.
which is nice.
Right.
Sometimes that's nice behind fingerstyle songs. Like I just released a cover song with a guy named Hoos Dielsen from uh, Europe over there,
Okay.
and he we did like two guitar parts, and he asked if I could lay down some string parts as a pad, and it's just this subtle string part, but it's also got country flavor because it's a country song that we recorded.
Okay, yeah.
It's I Remember Everything, so it's a fairly new release. But that violin under there was just 4 or 5 layers of me here. So I use it for production and different things like that.
Right. That's good. So how are you like in Nashville? I mean,
Mhm.
do you like traveling there? Do you have a group you work with or
Yeah,
do you have
I
a
definitely
certain
have a lot
place
of
you go
friends.
when you go to Nashville to record or meet?
I
How do you?
try to do most of my like recording things like that at home. I have a lot of friends in Nashville, and of course
Okay.
Nashville's the
Mhm.
place to be just for connection's sake in
Yeah,
general.
Yeah.
But most of my work has been online, and
online.
fairly
Right.
Yeah.
self-contained. And like with Spotify, I do a lot of work with Spotify and playlisting and releasing music there, which that's been very good for me. I would say Spotify is about half my income.
Oh wow.
And
Nice.
so that's been a lot of my work, mostly online and social media for sure.
Of course, with today's
And
technology.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so I've never really done the studio musician thing. There's a lot of studio musicians in Nashville.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
And
of
that's
course.
good, and that's good work as well. But I think I fell into the things that I enjoyed doing most.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I teach as well.
at the end of
yeah.
Teach
the
lessons, that
day,
kind of thing.
you got to satisfy yourself, or your artistry suffers. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Your
it's
It
creativity
does. It
suffers.
yeah.
totally does. And you hear, stories. I mean, if you like, watch the Elvis documentary and stuff like that, it's like you hear stories about artists that got into things that just suffocated them
Mhm.
artistically. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even in just in their life in general. So like that can happen depending on what you get into.
Yeah,
Bad
absolutely.
record
Especially if
deals
you're
and things like that as
tied
well.
to a company or a label,
Mhm.
and then
Exactly.
they're dictating on what you can and can't do,
Mhm.
and that just limits you
Yeah.
completely.
And I know I
Yes, I
have
mean
friends
it.
that they went to like Belmont, and they got a music degree and all those sorts of things, and they started, they got signed to a label as a writer, and they start
Mhm.
writing songs, but they're writing cookie cutter country songs. Say
Yeah.
that fast
Right.
10 times. Country
Exactly.
songs,
It's by a
and
certain
they
format. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's a radio format that it's very cut and dry. They can't be too creative, and it's
Mhm.
just kind of sucks the life out of
Yeah,
the music for
yeah,
them. And
yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's
those
what I
friends that
try
I
to.
know that are both doing different jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Whether that's physical therapy or just,
right,
whatever.
Mhm.
So it's like you do have to do what you want to do in music.
right.
Otherwise, why are
Well.
you doing it?
Well,
So
and you now teach lessons
Mhm.
exactly, yeah,
at your website. Check out your website, colinhillguitar.com. Am I correct?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Check
That's
that
right. If you want
out,
guitar
man.
lessons, yeah,
And
absolutely.
have you thought about maybe starting offering violin lessons?
I haven't. I would be okay with teaching violin. It's just not something I've advertised that I play,
Advertise.
so people don't really reach out for it.
Right.
He's got
But
the
yeah, I would do that.
relationship with the guitar. I understand it as a guitarist.
Yeah,
You have a relationship with that instrument. You have your
100%.
ups and downs. You play that instrument. You know that instrument
Yeah,
inside and out.
it's true.
It works.
It's true, and you probably know what I'm about to say is you can have different relationships with different guitars too.
Yeah.
Like if you pick one up at a guitar store, you got to get acquainted with it.
Yeah. Well, see,
And
and that you can have. I love old beat up.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
brand new crisp guitars. Each one of
totally,
them I have that different relationship with,
totally.
and it's the only way to get that certain tone out of it. That guitar,
Mhm.
like I got that tone in mind. You know what? I'm picking that one up.
Exactly, and they all do a different thing. Like that's a Gibson right there, Gibson
Yeah.
L00 Studio walnut back and sides with a Sitka
Hmm.
top and a rosewood fretboard. I'm not sure what the bridge pins are, but it's got a very folky sound, and it's
Hmm.
very focused in the mid range, not a ton of bass. And I purposely leave dead strings on it because it
Hmm.
gets that folky, thumpy sound, and I
Oh
love
wow.
it. And
She's
I
got
know
an
what
attitude.
I'm going for when
Yeah.
I grab that guitar, right?
Right.
And then whereas like that guitar is very bright, very alive,
Hmm.
and just kind of an all around like fingerstyle guitar. It's got a bigger body. This one also a fairly folky sound. I got dead strings on it right now, but that one right there is a melody beast. Like if I'm playing
Hmm.
a single line melody over top of somebody else's progression. Like matter of fact, the song I just mentioned, I Remember Everything. My buddy laid down the chords, I put down a melody, and then harmonies with the violin and stuff like that. I
Oh
use
wow.
that guitar
Hmm.
there because it's just a melody beast. Like it sustains forever. The overtones are incredible. So yeah, each guitar has a different thing that it does.
Well,
For
and
sure.
it's inspiring. And there's sheet musicians, and then there's one people that play by ear. You can acquire one or the other. But I
Yeah.
always told everybody, I said, with the creative field, creativity doesn't end with a period. It ends with a question,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
is, anything goes. It's like if you pick up a guitar, you can't even reach sheet music. Guess what? Make your own tunes because nobody can play your own tunes better than you.
Yeah.
And
100%.
and what you've done, I believe, is very inspiring to anybody who just wants to pick up and come up with their own style.
Mm.
Do what they
Mm-hmm.
want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, look at you on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You opted to do that, and now, every bit of effort and arrangements you've done with your music. I mean, it's successful to
Yeah.
you, number
Mm-hmm.
one, no matter what.
Sure thing. Sure thing. Yeah, it's definitely a self-fulfilling kind of a thing. Yeah, and music is so personal and so subjective as well.
Hmm.
And that's why I don't like music competitions usually.
Right.
I think
Right.
they have their place, but like they're not usually fun, and it's so subjective. It's so
It
Right.
is,
subjective.
yeah.
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 It's
Uh,
whatever's best for a producer.
Yeah, 100%. And what they're
Well, it's all about the
listening
money.
for.
Well,
You
yeah, it's
know.
about money.
I mean,
Absolutely,
of course,
that's the
you've
thing.
got to have money to live, and as a musician or just artist in general,
Yeah.
you hear the term starving artist. Well, it shouldn't really be that way because there's
Mm-mm.
different avenues.
Yeah.
Are
Totally. Yeah.
you trying to get with a band, and then is that band struggling to make it, or individually are you
Mhm.
struggling to make it, or
Yeah.
whatnot?
Mhm.
But there's different avenues, just like
Yeah.
teaching lessons. You're still
Mhm.
Yeah.
doing what you love to do. in your
Yep.
style, and you can teach that to somebody else and
And that's
still
the
make
totally
money
different
off
side
of
of it,
it.
and
You
it's
know?
also fulfilling. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that the reason I don't get burned out as easily as I would if I wasn't doing this is because I'm pretty diversified, I guess, in what I
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
if that's the right word. Like I'll be teaching one day, teaching a class or teaching a private student on Zoom kind of thing. And then I'll record a nylon string guitar part for one of my profiles on Spotify called Nylon and Cedar, and I release songs on that monthly. And then, the next day I'll be playing a live show or something like that.
Right.
It's just a lot of different things. Traveling, I love to travel. A lot of different things that keep it fresh, and I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of my heroes, like even like Tommy Emmanuel, he toured basically from the age of 4. He had a family band in Australia, and I mean, he doesn't know life other than traveling,
Right.
as a musician, and so that's built into him, and that's part of his DNA, and that's wonderful for him. But I just don't think I could do that. I don't think I could play
Yeah.
300 shows a year.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's your choice.
More,
That is your
that's
choice,
exactly.
and that's a
And
bit.
you know what? Some people it's good for, and
Yeah.
more power to them. But there's definitely multiple ways to make a living
Right.
as a musician in
Oh,
in
absolutely.
this year,
Right.
2023. And and talking to different people, some people know that, some people don't. I've definitely talked to people before where it's like, if you're not touring, they don't think you're making any money.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I could be like,
It's
well,
not
listen,
always the
I've
case.
got 3 million streams or whatever in the past year or whatever on this profile on Spotify, and to them it's like, well, they think that's 12 cents because there's so much bad press about
Yeah.
that, but that's
Yeah.
not 12 cents. That's a lot more than that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so it's like, it is hard. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to certain people because if you're not touring,
Well,
you're
they
not
just
making
don't
money.
understand the
It
industry.
used to be that
Yeah.
way.
Right.
It
Yeah.
used to be that way for sure. So I can understand the thought process behind that. But there's just so many other ways now. And I think too, I could talk about this forever, but I think that musicians need to have an entrepreneurial mindset nowadays.
Yes.
Because if they're only artist mindset, there's a lot of incredible artists that are just non-known
Right.
because of the entrepreneurial mindset. And there is something to be said about an artist doing their thing and letting management help them.
Right.
That's totally fine. You know what I mean? That's a good thing. But for other independent artists, it's smart to have some level of
Yeah.
other skills. Like
Right.
I had a guitar player reach out and just ask advice, like on Spotify and just different things, like what did you do to get to grow or whatever on Instagram, all that stuff. And I just started like telling him to like learn as much about all the jobs that you can. So
Yeah.
learn how to mix and master a record,
Right.
learn how to properly record, learn how to acoustically treat a room, learn how to I don't know, just film yourself, right?
Yeah.
Learn lighting, learn what's flattering, learn what's not, like all
Right.
the elements of
Yeah.
it too. It's really helpful too, because even if you do get management later that's doing those things for you, you could have a say, an easier
Right.
say in what happens.
The best
No,
experience is doing
absolutely.
it
And
yourself.
yeah, and if you want it this certain way and they're not willing to do it or can't understand what you're saying, then you just have that knowledge
Right.
just to go do it, and
Yeah,
have it the way you
100%.
want it,
Yeah, yeah, and it's a double-edged sword too. I mean, I definitely bite off more than I can chew sometimes.
Well,
Yeah.
So
talking
that
about
happens.
writing songs and things, something that I wanted to ask is, how did you come up with your brother Kevin Hill's theme song?
That happened so many years ago. I don't even know. That happened must have been 10 years ago or something like that.
And we're
now.
gonna get Kevin on the show too.
Yeah.
you know.
Okay.
So
I mean, that song is very, very simple. He asked me to write something just to put at the beginning, so more or less like a jingle in a way,
Yeah.
Like
if
a
you want
jingle.
to think of it in music, like business terms, that would be considered a jingle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a simple melody that everybody can understand, and it's going from a 4-chord to a 1-chord. And we repeat, right?
right.
And it's so simple. You can hear the melody is
Right.
that kind of thing.
Like
but the chords are
Nationwide
so
on your
simple.
side, but
Yeah.
but good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The jingle.
It's like that, but good. You know what I'm saying?
Well, hey,
So-
since you done that, we're gonna
appreciate it.
contact Nationwide and see if we can get a sponsor from them. You know,
Are you kidding me?
maybe they'll sponsor
There
this
you go.
video.
That's
No,
right.
I was hoping
right,
Captain D's, guys.
That's awesome.
Obvious Captain D's. Hey, you know what? It would be nice to hear
What's that? Classical gas.
classical gas.
Yeah, how about we hear some classical gas?
All right. I'll play it for you guys.
He's gonna
This is
make it happen,
Tommy
guys.
Manuel, inspired arrangement.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I'm coming into this a little bit cold, but all right.
No, you're
bit cold.
good. Man, oh man.
Woo. I raised a lantern.
Yeah.
I had no lighter. All right? And we raised a lantern, pirate style.
Thank you, guys.
Sounded wonderful.
Yeah, no kidding.
Thank you.
You know, I hope our viewers enjoy it, and I hope it gets you more views, and I hope that, you know, that inspires somebody watching this video to say, hey, I want to learn to play like that, and he can teach me, you know, because that's what it's all about, you know, passing your style, your knowledge. Yes, even though you can hear some of the people that you've listened to and implemented, but you still got your own style, and now you can pass that along as well. It's like you can pass your language on, you know, because now it's kind of your version.
Yeah. Your way of speaking, your way of 100%.
Not to
and that is
impose
super cool.
another, you know, trademark, but finger picking good is what I would call that.
Oh, that's fun. That's funny. That's great. Yeah, a little trademark infringement. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
That's perfect. That's
I mean,
perfect.
but chicken
No, I
saw that
appreciate
it just
right.
it'd be like classical gas.
Right.
That's
Oh
awesome.
my gosh.
That's awesome.
Do you have any plans, like, for your future travels? Do you have a destination that you definitely want to go to?
Antarctica.
I'd
Oh,
love to go there.
somebody did it in a cube lately. I'm just saying.
There you go. I mean, I would like, honestly, I want to travel more in Europe. I've been to Denmark to record with Casper before, so that was
You're
great.
right.
I have been to Czech Republic on a mission trip, which was awesome. Played guitar there. And that was really fun. But I haven't done an actual fingerstyle tour there, which would be really fun because
Yeah.
Germany's a pretty big hot spot for that.
Right.
So that would be great. Antarctica would be great.
Right.
The polar bears.
Now, when
And,
you
Kidding, but really, yeah. I mean,
when
it
you
could.
tour,
Well, hey,
do you?
Listen, I love traveling just to begin with. So, even if it's without the guitar, or at least without the guitar for my job, I think a
Right.
side passion, if I just want to throw this in there, side passion is to have real estate in different places so I can
Yeah.
travel easier.
Yeah.
Have you done on
cheaper.
a cruise?
I have not, although I do have friends that have. With the exact
That
same
takes
style,
a
finger
lot
style.
of time.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Yeah.
That usually makes your 3 weeks in China because look like nothing.
Mhm.
It's usually like 6 months at a time, 8
Ooh.
months.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
when you
I
do
have
the
heard
cruise
those. Yeah,
thing.
exactly. And it's from what I can tell, it's pretty good money. I'm sure.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
got to be
Yeah.
worth it. But yeah, that's definitely commitment for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That I don't see why you couldn't do that right now. It's just the fact of just signing up and doing it. And so
100%. Yeah.
when you do tours, are you asked to join like shows, or is it something you can sign up and they'll review your portfolio, what you've done, or
Mhm.
or how does that go about working? How do you do that?
It's different in every situation, and these types of tours, these types of shows are not on the scale of like, for instance, a John Mayer and things like that. So there's
Mhm.
much less logistics in a lot of the shows that we do. And I mean, the
Right.
ones that we did in China, fully set up by kept my guitars. We didn't even know what the venues looked like before we got there. We
Yeah,
played
right.
one venue. We walked in. It was inside of a mall. And I thought that it was going to be a venue inside the mall. It turns out it was in the center of the mall.
In the
Oh,
center
wow.
of the mall. Yeah.
And there was a big old stage set up like right in one of those open areas with shops all around and 5 layers of the mall. You know what I mean?
Oh,
With
wow.
with escalators going back, up and forth.
Yeah.
And there were people on the balconies watching, and it was the loudest, most echoey. Like, I didn't know what we were going into. But anyway,
Right.
that said, that was all set up by Ketma, so like I didn't have to think about that or do that. So that's that's one example. Other examples are like where I'll get connected with other guitar players, friends of mine who have played at said venue in Florida or the venue in Alabama and that sort of thing. Like I played at a place called Tangled String Studios. There's a buddy of mine that runs concerts for that, so there's a great setup there. And a lot of the ones I do in the States are just one-offs.
Right.
I've done house concerts as well because this is wonderful for that. People really
Yeah.
enjoy that. That's usually how that works here, at least for me. And some of my friends, it works differently. A guy named Luca Straganoli, he's an Italian player, and he does like touring mostly full time. Like I think he's on the road most of the time. And he sets up his tours himself for sure. Like he does most of the work. But that's like he's stringing lots and lots of shows together.
Right.
That sort of thing. So
Well,
yeah.
you've played like, just individually, you've been asked to play at like the art gala in Clarksville,
Yeah, exactly.
during an art
Mhm.
show and things like that. So, I mean, yeah, that's great too. Cause
And I think just personally, like for me, like I haven't sought out the touring side of things. So I do the ones that come my way, and it's been
Yeah.
the right amount.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like if it were to be more, I would take the ones that come, I would say.
Right.
But like I don't want it to be too much.
too much,
Too much
It's just
on
not
you.
right. Yeah.
Exactly. And performing live can be more stressful. It depends on the temperament
Right.
of the
Yeah.
person. And also it depends on the vibe of the crowd.
Well-
There's just a lot of things that go into it. But when you're the
Yes.
one person on stage
Yeah.
and the only sound they're hearing is your guitar, you're not
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
singing, that's a lot of pressure sometimes.
Yes.
And I could see
so-
that in the lounge setting. Like I said, it kind of gave
in
me
a
the
lounge
lounge.
setting. Yeah, and that's also as well, like this is a little different than what you're saying there, but like even playing background music for restaurants, that's a totally different vibe.
Right,
than,
right.
Like, and that is definitely easier, and it's fine. It's
Well, do
like
you
you're getting
get-
paid to practice.
Do you get
basically.
nervous during any of it or before any of it, or
Yeah,
you get
like
nervous?
Regular-
full-blown concerts for sure. Yeah, because it's like you're their entertainment for 90 minutes.
I've
you
done
know?
Yeah.
concerts before, and
Yeah.
no matter if you do it 100,000 times, you're gonna have a
Still
certain
gonna
amount of
get
nerves. And
nervous,
let me
yeah.
tell you that.
Honestly, if you
That's
don't
good.
have some, I was gonna say if you don't have some, you're in trouble. You know what I mean?
Oh, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have some, otherwise you're not gonna stay on top of your playing and things like
Yeah.
that. But too
Yeah.
much and it's debilitating. And so it's like there's a balance to that. And also too, I'm telling you, the solo thing is different. Like getting up there with a band, I can do that.
Yeah.
I feel like it depends on the
By
job. If you're the
yourself,
singer-
all eyes
if
are
you-
on you.
You're the
Yeah, if
singer,
you're the
yeah,
singer, it's a lot
I've been-
more stressful.
Yeah.
But as the guitar player in a band, man, I'm okay. That's no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Being up there solo as a fingerstyle guitar player can be a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also too, I realize that I can work through some of those things. I haven't
Well,
just taken that and said, you know what,
it's the
because of
confidence
that,
in
I'm
your
not going
craft.
to do it at all. Yeah, exactly. And being you know, like whenever I am playing shows, I'll practice hours and hours and hours, and before each show I will play for 30 minutes, just straight playing for
Yeah.
30 minutes so that I'm hot when I go on.
Yeah. Flexible.
If I play for
what you
an
will.
hour
Yeah.
before I go on, I'm getting a little burnt out, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. At the end of shows, you know, your fingers are definitely going to be a little bit raw. But if you do that enough in a row, it's okay. It's sustained. It is
Keeping it
sustainable.
fresh.
Right.
Yeah.
And
And
I
when you're
think
playing that much, you'll start to realize like you have to be careful with your hand. Like you have to make sure your technique isn't bad, because if you're playing that many hours, you're going to
Yeah.
start to have issues with flexibility, with wrist issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things.
And then you develop bad habits with it, you know.
Exactly.
You know,
and, you have
and
to
I
be
feel
careful
like
with
that, especially if you're a fast player, you can play fast.
Oh, yeah.
It's debilitating sometimes because what
Mhm,
happens
mhm.
is you get unhinged in
Yeah.
a way. I've done it before,
Yeah.
and I've had to stop playing because I would develop
Yes.
bad habits.
Right.
Yes,
You know?
I had a technique fall apart on me. It's like a tremolo type.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
fast tremolo kind of
Right.
style. I recorded
Yeah.
a song named Hallelujah, and Hallelujah is like that Leonard Cohen song.
Yeah.
Jeff Buckley kind of made it famous
Yeah.
as well. But that melody I played with the tremolo.
Mhm.
That kind of thing or whatever. I recorded that song, fast tremolo part, and then like a few months later, I was playing my tremolo part, but I was letting a lot of tension get into my right hand.
Yeah.
And it was no longer like loose and flowy.
Yeah.
I was kind of tensing up, and it was making the tremolo uneven. Like it was. I can't try to do it. It was
Yeah,
just
you
happening,
it's
like the
kind of
tremolo
like
was
you
getting
missed the
uneven.
frets you used to. It's like almost all
Yeah,
of a
yeah, yeah.
sudden. I did that not too long ago, man. I'm
Mhm.
telling you
Mhm.
because except I plays a lot thrash metal, right? And you're a lot of, but then I tried to do a slow technique on a simple type, and I was like, this
Yeah.
is not working all of a sudden. Like I
Uh-huh.
got so adapted. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
completely
I had to get
understandable.
I had to get the tension out. You know what I mean? Like my hand
Yeah.
was getting so tense
Yeah.
that I could not do it. Eventually, it was literally like I was like I couldn't do it. My technique fell apart. So I had
Yeah.
to go back, shake the tension out, put a metronome on, and I literally played the technique like this.
You have
And
to unlearn.
anytime- I had to unlearn exactly,
Yeah.
unlearn the tension. And anytime there was some tension, I had to slow it down, let my hand
Right.
do this. I'll teach students this too. Let your hand
Yeah.
like, be limp,
Yeah.
put it in position, and then start to do it. I had to do that for like 2 or 3 months before it got back up to speed. And it's crazy
Yeah.
because I could literally like pull up my
Yeah.
video on Spotify and be like, or my song on Spotify
Yeah.
and be like, here's how I could play it.
Yeah.
But I
Right.
literally can't physically play that anymore because of tension. So you do have to be careful to keep your
Because it'll
hands
hurt you
in
on
the
your other
relaxed
stuff
way.
too. If that tension
Yeah.
stays, it's like you got to
Yeah.
stay flexible, versatile, ready
Yeah.
for anything, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and that's the way it is with picking, like up and down picking, like with
Yeah.
players that are more like shredders and things like that as
Yeah.
well. That's not something that I ever really.
I'm a palm
practiced
muter,
lot because
for
of-
instance. I'm a very big
muting.
palm muter.
Exactly.
so.
Yeah, that's not the style that I really spent much time with. So I can't do that like up and down fast picking things like that. I get speed from hammer-ons and pull-offs and from like
Right, yeah.
banjo roll techniques where it's like you can play like a lick.
Right.
Uh,
See,
that kind of
and I'm
way.
not as advanced on that end. You know, it's
little-
kind
You know
of
what I mean? Yeah, it's a different style, but like if I were to do the up and down picking and like practice that, I would definitely have to keep the same thing in mind where it's like I need to make sure I'm not bringing tension into my wrist and keep it loose enough and that kind of thing. Yeah.
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 So, yeah, it's just a development, and you watch other players and you adapt a little bit of whatever they take. I'm sure it's like he'll learn everything. He'll learn something different, I'm sure, from every guitarist you see. A different 100%. Technique, and you know, there's masters at every craft, and it's fun to watch them do their thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
yeah. Now, besides the guitar, is there any other big hobbies or something you got going on right now?
You know, I mean, right now I am actually investing in some like real estate-ish business adventures.
Ooh,
so that's
fun.
I'm doing some renting and Airbnb out and that kind of thing. So that's I guess you could call that
real
a hobby,
estate.
but it's also a business hobby. Yeah, real estate.
Yeah.
That thing. So I enjoy that. That's been a long-term dream, and this is my first step into it. So I'm actually really thankful for that.
Right.
Yeah, that's really fun.
Well.
Other than that, you know, I grew up playing video games, so I was a nerd in that way.
Yeah,
and,
that's us.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, just, you know, our names, you know, Nexus Pirate and Salty Crawdad, that's our gamer names.
Well,
gamer
so
tags.
hey,
you know, I use my gamer tags for a lot of usernames on websites. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, ironically, the first time I got to meet this guy was at a water park.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at the water park.
Yeah. I'm the pirate. You know, you met me at a water park.
That's true.
I was like, okay, Colin, I remember him. Yes, the one you told me with the guitar. I'm like, I have a guitar with me. What are we gonna do?
That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I would say games are definitely a fun hobby for me. And like I said, I've been busy with the Airbnb stuff.
Well, we'll all have to get on and play something sometime.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Now that we've all got good internet and things,
and
living
that
in
helps.
Tennessee, you know.
And then we'll get together, man. I'll bring a bass or something, or hell, just electric and acoustic. We'll jam out a little bit, man.
Well, I'm useless at that point because I can't play an instrument.
Well, hey,
I can sit and
there's
listen,
a way to learn.
You
I
know?
mean, like,
pick up the drums,
I'll get you a xylophone or something, man.
Yeah.
Xylophone, there you go. Marimba.
I mean, well, whatever.
Give me one of them instruments like pirates used to play where they spin it here, but it's like strings.
I'm just
up
going
here
to
and
get
they
you.
spin it.
I'm going to get you a drum machine and be like, here, hit that button.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boom, there it is.
The man, you know.
I guess that'd be like Will Ferrell. Just give me a cowbell, you know.
Give you a cowbell. We want more cowbell, all right?
That's right.
But, well, we appreciate you coming on the show. I hate to keep you all day. We could just talk for hours.
Yeah. But guys, please follow this guy. And I mean, his YouTube is great instructional wise. And check out all the different people he's worked with on there, the different styles. I mean, you just saw what he did with classical guys.
Right.
It's wonderful, inspiring, and believe me, this guy, he does it his own way. He's successful. It works, man.
It works.
This is proof you can do it.
ColinHillGuitar.com. If
There
you
you
want
go.
lessons, look him up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, and I think I remember he's a really good swimmer too. So maybe, well, that's a good thing because we're gonna have to ask you to walk the plank because it's the end of the show.
End of the show.
There you go. There you go. I love it. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was fun.
All righty,
buddy. Colin.
All right, y'all. Take it easy.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Well, that was Colin Hill, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show today. There's still more things to come here on the channel, and we're going to leave a link to his website in the description.
Down below.
Just to even make it even easier for everyone to check out.
Yep.
And we appreciate y'all watching.
And I believe this guy's up for instructional videos and everything else. So let him know what you think. Give him a like. Hey, promote this guy.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to set sail and head on out for the day.
Yeah, I'm ready to jump ship already.
Yeah.
All right, come on.
All right. Y'all take it easy and see you next time.
Chills.
Way hanging up, she rises early in the morning.